with an AI software that I had purchased and was getting to work, and I was sharing it with Mark, and we use something called LastPass, which is the way that we share securely passwords and websites and such. And Mark was not able to get on to the site. And let me just see if I'm just going to copy this, Mark. Um, for some reason, it doesn't seem to want to be updating.
Okay.
Well, it looks like it might have now, so let's see. Don't want to log out. Crap, I gotta write this down somewhere. Just a second. Well, how is everybody doing today? It is a kind of crummy day here in Boise. First time we've had sort of not great weather in a long time. It hasn't been, we haven't had a winter really. And it's windy today and a little cool. It actually snowed a little bit in one area. And anyway, just putting in a password here so I make sure that I save it. Well, we are having fun now with our course on AI for environmental professionals, and we are in session 4. And if you remember, I got a little bit more to do last week and didn't finish. So we're going to finish up with prompting for the first today, and then we're going to move to the next session, which is essentially, and by the way, got some cool people on here that haven't been on in a little while. Welcome to you folks that are out there, and you probably know who you are. One of them is my good friend Doug, who's been one of our guests, and he's on today. Doug, this is going to be fun, a little bit different. We're going to just teach about AI and environmental sorts of things, so you could come in and out as you'd like. But Mark, do you notice who's not on today?
Yeah. One of our regulars, Alicia, is not on.
Yeah, one of our regulars for literally 10 years. She has been with us. We need to celebrate her, give her some kind of an award once we have our anniversary in June. So I didn't finish with prompting last week, and we're going to spend a little bit more time with that today. We covered a lot of ground last week, and rather than rush those last slides, I wanted to just give you a little more time with them. So I'm going to actually pull up my PowerPoint slides here, including the one that is just going to be, I'm going to first go to the one for last week, just to quickly review here. And I have not shared my screen yet. So here's was session 3 that I'm going to share in just a second. But I guess I really need to first go in and share my screen. See, a couple people have said some things in the chat. Welcome to everybody that's here, and I hope the weather's more nice for you and wherever part of the world you're in. And like I said, it is here in the Idaho area, but we can't really complain because we've had amazingly good weather. So are you seeing, Mark, the session 3 for practical AI?
Yes, we see it.
Right. So this is going to be something I go through quickly. So I'm going to move this to the slideshow. And okay, why is it doing that from the beginning? And again, real quick, we went through prompting last week, and I didn't finish it. And these 6 circumstances, the role of prompting, the context of prompting, what the task is and how you do it, the format, using bullets, tables, emails, such, that's important. The constraints, and finally the review. And I didn't go back in and correct my mistakes of not having capitalized here. But again, here was an example I used of a weak prompt, write something about wetlands. And then here's a much stronger prompt. Act as an environmental consultant, helping prepare a client memo for a landowner considering wetland restoration on a small agricultural property in the Midwest. Write a 1-page English summary explaining the potential ecological benefits, likely permitting questions, and 3 practical next steps. So, and use a professional but accessible tone and organize the response with short headings. So that's the prompt, not just one little part of it. It's all of that. So that's very different than the weak prompt of write something about wetlands. If you just do that simple weak prompt, you're not going to get an answer that's going to be that meaningful for you. I'm going to talk a lot more about all 4 of these things today, which is why would you be doing this? Why would you use any kind of AI in the environmental world? And obviously, these are just 4, and I'm going to talk about 5 or 6 different reasons in just a little bit. And here's another little example, a different prompt. Again, a good prompt. Act as a senior environmental consultant. You're telling the AI, you're telling it to act as a senior environmental consultant. I need to prepare a follow-up email after a visit with a manufacturing client. Draft the concise email that summarizes 3 likely environmental issues we discussed, the information we still need, and 2 recommended next steps. Now, assuming you've already done those things. Keep the tone professional, practical, and reassuring. Use short paragraphs and bullet points. So there's an example. I'm telling it to use bullets. You need to tell it if you want it to do that. Or more importantly, if you don't want it to do something. Prompting is a conversation, not a one-shot event. All right. So don't worry if you don't get something right in the first prompt that you give. You can just change it. You can make it better. It's a conversation. Be human in the way that you're doing your prompting. Don't worry about being formal. These are the kinds of things that you've got to watch. And I talked about this, is that look for these as strengths. 1, clear structure, appropriate tone, useful level of detail, 6 specific next steps, language you can actually use and revise. Don't do what's here in the middle. Don't just put in generic filler. And you've got to watch for it giving you generic filler. You've got to watch for it making up facts or invented citations. You've got to watch for it being overconfident. You also can't be overconfident in your language. And then after you see these things, these negatives, then you've got to go back in and ask for something more specific. So this is really the workflow you should try to use. Pick a task, build a prompt, revise the draft. So in other words, don't just pick the task and then write it. Do it for yourself, then revise it, then put it in. Keep good prompts, phrases, and examples so you can reuse them. That's really important to do. And then expand only after it feels like you're getting the right kind of flow. This was the homework from last week, and I'm curious if any of you have what this asked you to be doing, which was to pick a single task, a simple one, give it the best prompt you can give it. Notice what difference it made as you modified it, and then maybe be willing to share about it. And even if you didn't do this specifically, please raise your hand and let us unmute you or put it in the chat and talk about these. So this was really kind of what we intended to get through. I didn't get through all of it. So now I'm going to escape from this. I'm going to go to the next presentation I have, which was just finishing up from last week. This, by the way, was a password that I didn't mean to be showing everybody, but that's all right. I want my PowerPoint back here. Get rid of this. Just a second. Here we go. Oh, here it is. So this was a new set of slides that I put together to just kind of start where we finished and stopped last time. So I'm going to have my notes on another computer here, pull over a mouse that I'm using and be able to look at that. And this is really kind of reviewing. So please keep this one in mind. I talked about this 2 weeks ago, why you should use AI and where it creates the most value. So it creates the most value where knowledge work is repetitive, important, and time sensitive. It can do things so much faster than you and I can do them. So just these are the kinds of things: research and information gathering, drafting reports, emails, proposals, summarizing complex technical material, organizing field notes and data, support planning and decision making, and improving communication with clients and regulators. Those are all really important things, obviously. Here's where it doesn't do so good, and it still needs your judgment. It can a lot of times sound way too confident and still be wrong. It's not going to replace your knowledge of whatever the project and the site is that you're working on. And it's not going to replace any kind of verification of what the regulatory circumstances are. You've got to make sure you know those. It's not going to replace ethics ever. So you really have to be careful about your ethics. It's not going to replace client relationships. And finally, you really need to always keep the final judgment. Again, we talked about this in a previous slide. These are the ways that you can use it to do different things and better things for you. So on the prompts, let's talk about this one last time. Use these as its strengths of prompts: clear structure, appropriate tone, useful level of detail, specific next steps, and language that you can actually use or revise. So make sure you can change it if you need to. These are the things to watch for, because this is what it's going to make up: generic filler, made up facts or invented citations, overconfident language, missed context of the client, which only you know, and outputs that sound polished but say very little. And the fixes are, if these things happen, ask through another prompt for plainer language or a different audience. Request bullets, tables, checklists, or shorter sections. and then tell it what to exclude. So kind of a bridge, a takeaway, and a bridge forward is AI is not a replacement for us as environmental consultants. It helps us be better, faster, and more effective. So what we're going to now talk about this week, and so this was intended to be the full topic, but we're finishing up the prompting now, is really understand why AI matters is only the beginning, but the next step is how to really use it well. So here's the same thing that we had earlier as the assignment. So anyway, we're going to get out of that now, and I'm going to stop for a second and see, Mark, are there any questions about prompting or anything else related to AI from the audience?
I don't see any questions yet. Okay.
So we're going to move on now. Got this way at the bottom. It's section 4. And we're going to start from the first slide. All right, so the context is okay. You're prompting. You know how to do prompts now. You've figured that out. You're getting better with it all the time. So, what's the best things to do? And we've already talked about it: research, writing, and thinking. That's on its part. So it'll help us write better, research faster, and think more clearly. And you're going to see the number 5 a bunch of times today. And it's not intended. I didn't really try to prompt it to get that, but it's actually pretty cool the way it does it. And so there are 5 high value uses. We've talked about all of them a little bit. We're going to have 5 different ways we can prompt to get stronger results. We're going to have a simple workflow for using AI well. And then we've talked about it, but let's go into more detail about what still do you need to validate. So here we go. Here's those 5 different areas. Use AI to first define the problem for you. So you give it a prompt and ask it to define what it is that you're working on. You need to gather facts and background information and use it with the AI. You need to organize issues, options, and next steps. Then you're going to tell it to draft language and summarize findings. And then lastly, again, you're going to verify and finalize it with your own expert judgment. So the AI is going to summarize, outline, compare options, draft, organize complex information. You, the human here, the consultant, is going to add your site knowledge, your field context, whatever you need for verification, your ethics, the client judgment. So again, you're probably having this done for a client. You need to know what that client wants and needs. And then finally, you need to really know whether you're getting the right final conclusions. So here's what I've said before. So none of this is new, but it's worth repeating. This is the 5 things you should use it for: research, support, and topic orientation, drafting emails, proposals, and memos. Frankly, you shouldn't be writing anything in the future. Let the first draft come from AI. It is so much, as long as it knows you, that's important. And I'm going to show you how a couple of these different large language models do that. The third is to summarize technical material, organizing project notes and data, 4th, and brainstorming options and next steps, 5th. And this is where it can be amazingly strong. I guarantee it's going to think of some things that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So we're going to talk about the first two steps first, and then we're going to move to the last three, and we're going to use very specific prompts here, and we're going to show it to you. So I'm going to use this one right here. What are the common issues and follow-up questions for redevelopment of a former light industrial site? Okay. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Didn't want to go forward. I'm going to I got one more slide, and I'm going to copy this and paste it. All right. So now we're going to move over to that thing's going too big. Shows you how many things I work on during the day, everybody. I'm still not down to my, this is what I wanted. All right, we're going to use OpenAI first, okay? And we're going to use a completely new chat. This is what I would recommend, by the way. OpenAI gives you the ability to create projects, which you can see I've got a bunch of them here. And then when you're doing something new, to use new chat, and this is new. We're going to do this for as if we're using, by the way, this is something else that's called AI PRM. Don't worry about it. It's just a tool that I was able to purchase and use. It's not that, it's not anything you need to have. But we're going to insert this prompt because we wanted this to do, oops, paste it. Now it pasted in that. Well, I'm giving you passwords for a site that you don't know. Okay, now I got to go back and copy this again because I thought I'd gotten it. Here we go. Now I added a profile. It's one of these things that this AI PRM knows. It knows my voice. It knows how I like to do things. So here it pretty quickly answered us. Here's a clear, practical overview. Again, this is me. I want answers to be economic. Environmental, obviously, it knows I'm interested in that. These are the kinds of things you should be thinking about. What are some unknowns in the site history? I'm not going to read all this. You're seeing it. So I'm just going to, I'm reading it for the first time also. What are some unknown site history situations? What about the underground storage tanks and utilities? A lot of times people, they ask about underground storage tanks, but not about other utility issues. What are the asbestos, lead, and demolition issues? What's the zoning and the land use? And are they not matched? A lot of times that is the case. And wherever this site is, what are the cleanup standards? Indoor air, vapor intrusion. What kinds of stormwater and drainage problems are there? Now you probably would have thought of all these things, okay? But maybe not. You know, you might not have thought of some of this. What's the regulatory uncertainty? Every jurisdiction is going to be different. And then what do financiers and lenders, what are their concerns? And what's the community perception? So it gives us some questions. This is the questions we'd ask the client, whoever that is, if it's a buyer or a seller or a developer or you name it. Has there been a phase one done, phase two, so on? Age of the buildings. What's the intended future use? Now, I've done this thousands of times, so all these questions I think are pretty, in my head already. I haven't seen anything yet here that I don't normally do, but if I had this just in a little cheat sheet with me, I would make sure before I went to a site or went to the meet with this client that I would have thought of these things by reading this cheat sheet. Okay. So that's what OpenAI answers. So now let's look and see what Manus would answer. A different LLM, a different model. I hadn't been working on this for a while, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this in a completely new task. Let's just kind of remember what we saw for the ChatGPT. And now let's see how this gives us something a little differently. Now, obviously, OpenAI knows me a lot better. I use Manus, but I don't use it as much. So you saw how quickly that OpenAI was able to answer this. Look how much longer that Manus is thinking on it. While it's doing that, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to do something on the same thing on Claude, another one of the large language models. Now, Claude went a lot faster than Manus did. Manus still hasn't given us the answer. The last thing I'm going to do is go to my super agent, which I've talked a little bit with you about, but that I'm using much more frequently now. This comes from, so Manus is, what am I losing it, Mark? Which one of the large systems is Manus associated with?
Meta.
It is Meta's, yes, that's right. And Claude is Anthropic. So, and OpenAI is, ChatGPT is OpenAI. It's really not ready to give an answer yet. It's taking its time. Let's go ahead and read what Claude said, because Claude came up with it pretty quickly. Very similar front end environmental conditions. It starts out with questions related to NFAs, no further action letter for issues, vapor intrusion. It's a little more broad than what ChatGPT was. A little more regulatory oriented or zoning related. So environmental use agreements against the title. It very much more legal, I would say, issues, liens and super liens, deed restrictions, utility easements, tax delinquency. Still not seeing anything that I wouldn't normally do. Doug, I'm assuming you see the same thing. Doug is also somebody that's done this kind of work commonly. Here we go. This is again something that ChatGPT asked about zoning. It's getting more specific about things like Section 106. I didn't see anything that specific in ChatGPT of the National Historic Act. A little bit more cost related in terms of questions. This was in ChatGPT's. Lots of overarching. Here's a big question. It uses, does the value created by the proposed in-use financial, community, and ecological justify the cost, risk, and complexity of getting there? Okay, well, and it's saying the answer is yes, often decisively so. Is then to keep going on, moving forward with the deal. See if Manus is done yet. Man, it is really spending some time. All right, while it's working, I'm going to go now to my and this is not going to where I wanted it to. Here we go. Let's get here. So this is my super agent, which is from a program called Base 44, and it uses all the large language models. So it takes some of its information from Anthropic and Claude. It takes some from Manus. It takes some from ChatGPT and even from some others. So we're going to do the same thing here. You don't have to differentiate between tasks here. That's not what I wanted. Why didn't it paste what we put in?
Yeah, it had this problem before.
I did.
So,
I think it's up here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and copy it from one of these two. I think it actually has put it in there, but I'm going to go ahead and copy it again here. All right, let's see how it works. Let's see if Manus is done yet. Manus is like writing a book. A lot of people don't like Manus. I've not liked it for most things, but what I've loved it for is I've had it write me business plans. And it's because it is so technical and detailed. It does a pretty amazing job for that. I think this is not going to be giving us anything more than we've already seen. But it's well, here it does give a specific citation to a Buckhalter article, which I have no idea what that is. I haven't read it. Let's go back because I would bet that she's already done. All right, first layer is contamination, just like it was for all the rest. A lot more concise. Now she got into the regulatory status. Physical issues, nothing that, again, is we didn't see with others. Here we go with deal breaker. She's taken a little bit more of a kind of go, no go attitude. Here, first time I've seen PFAS discussed. None of the others did discuss PFAS. And they always end all of these models with what do you want me to do next? Do you want me to turn this into a due diligence template you can use with prospects, or build it into the CRM as a standard intake form for how you work with clients? Gosh, let's see if Manus is done. Not yet. I can't believe this is taking. Now, I think sometimes with Manus, if you leave it, you don't see it. So while that's happening, I want to show you one other thing that, here we go. Now here we finally got it. It's done. The environmental starts with structural and geotechnical, zoning and land use. So here's what I like that Manus does. This is actually written to where I'm going to double click on this. And I can very easily just download this and save it to Google Drive. That's one of the cool things actually about Manus. Now, I don't like the way that it typed the font type and such that it used, but look at all the references it gave. A lot more detailed, a lot more. If I didn't, I mean, this is my life. I live doing these kinds of projects, so I know this as well as anybody does. But look at all these references. If you were relatively new at doing this, they're all pretty accurate, pretty nice. I don't know why it, let's see if I open it with Google Docs, if it looks more right. Oh yeah, this is much better. Okay. Yeah, this actually makes it look wonderful. This is great. All right, so there's some positives to that. Let's go back to I actually, so just to show you again what these super agents can do. So I have it check all my emails. I think I've told you guys that I used to have to read, if I really wanted to get detail on it, I would have Mark and Arib help me, but as many as 1,500 emails a day. I'm now down to where maybe I read 20 a day because it's already telling me that the others are not something that I really need to get. And it's amazingly saving my time. And it does it at 8 in the morning, at midday. Look at it. It says here it found no urgent emails, mostly promotional routine notifications. Inbox is clear. And then there's and it actually summarizes the topic log for me. And I don't think I've even looked at this yet. Let's click on this and see what this is. Yeah, I have it. This is interesting because it's just got sort of what it did for yesterday for a daily summary. I started asking it to do this the first of this week. So now I've got to go back and look at some of these. All right, so that shows you again where one prompt we didn't. Let's see. Let's go back to Manus. Yeah, Manus, we did finish up. That worked away. So your opinion, as you quickly looked at those, because a lot of you have already been doing this. What would you do next, Mark? We've now got 4 different answers to this really simple question of what are the common issues and follow-up questions for the redevelopment of a former light industrial site. We had ChatGPT give us one. We had Manus give us one. We had Claude give us one. We had the super agent Wilma, which is a combination of a lot of these models, give us one. What should we do next? To to
We
to
should
make to use AI to help us.
we can copy and paste everything into one of them and ask to evaluate, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, that's great. What are we? Do we really care which one of these is better than the other?
I think we should, right? We need the better one.
Yeah, but
Or
meaning, do we care whether I'm not going to ever use Manus again because it gave me
oh no,
garbage? No, we don't care at all, right? We
no,
we
no.
care about. Let's go back to our what we talked about earlier. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint now.
Yes, we're gonna
Go ahead.
we're gonna see which one is accurate, more useful information, and then pick that.
Well, or what's another option?
As we can, I don't know.
I mean, you're right. That is one important thing we can do. But
Yeah.
what's another option?
Oh, I think don't know.
We can. Here's where AI comes in. We could just make Google Docs of all of the five, or whatever way we wanted to have it, and put them in as information together, and then ask it, what is there here that you see that's unique and not repetitive from site to site? What's new in one of them versus another? But more importantly, take all of them and put them together and give me one common draft from all of them. So now it's not
Mhm.
doing research anymore. It's literally just summarizing for us. So we aren't taking and saying
Right.
Manus is better than ChatGPT, and ChatGPT isn't as good as, or is better than Claude. Instead, we're saying, and we'd have to pick one of them to do this with, but we would then say put them all together and give me a combination to where if one of them missed something, add that into this one. So we're now
Mhm.
trying to get the best from all four of them.
Mhm. Right.
And I don't know that I want to take the time right now to do that, but that would be something that I would try to do next. We want to finish up because I've got just a few more slides for today, but so let's just keep going here. I would recommend to you, do this other one for yourself in whatever of the models you're currently using. If you wouldn't mind, audience, just put into the chat or raise your hands and let us talk with you just briefly, of which of these models you're using, or what way are you using AI at all. Okay, so this was number one, research and drafting. I didn't draft the memos here, but it's pretty obvious that, again, and in this case, I think this is not a good prompt, because we haven't given any of these models what the details of the site is. This is a great one because this applies to any farm or industrial site. We don't have to give the specifics of any given site to do what we just generated from all these. All right, remember, there were 5 different ways in which we were right here, the 5 high value uses. We just saw 2 of them. research, support, and topic orientation, drafting emails, proposals, and memos. So now we're going to get the last three: summarizing technical material, organizing project notes and data, and brainstorming options and next ideas. So essentially, what it's saying is that we're asking the AI to organize, brainstorm, and then train us, all right, instead of us training the AI. So this is a way it can really work well, and that is to take scattered notes. That's what I was just talking about. For that topic we just discussed, turn all those notes into something and then ask it to give you an action list about how you deal with it. So all that really takes is a scanner that you can buy down at for less than $100. The ink is going to be your biggest cost, but you're not going to use the ink really. You're just going to use it to scan. Get one where you could feed paper into it, and then use it to take notes about a subject that you're dealing with. And you've maybe notes from 5 years ago and notes from yesterday and notes somewhere in between. It will be really good at doing that. And, you know, the brainstorm is that you tell it, group this into themes, risks, and open questions, because that's the way it's going to use its knowledge to help brainstorm. And then brainstorm alternatives, stakeholder concerns, or phasing options. And then finally, create stuff for your own use, internal checklists, training guides, standard language, so you can use things and get it made better. And we don't have time to do that today. I'll do that between this week and next week and show you how I took a bunch of scattered notes from maybe over several years for a specific topic or a specific site, and then turn that into something organized. Anything in the chat, Mark? Because I'm not looking at it, that people have said which models they're using.
Nobody answered, but there's a question on prompt.
Okay.
So when using AI, you need to ask specific questions, otherwise you might get useless information. Any thoughts? That's from Alicia.
I didn't hear the question there.
Okay, so she's asking like, you need to ask specific questions to AI, otherwise you don't get useful information. Is that correct?
Well, I think it's even more detailed than that. That's what we've been talking about here. You've got to be very careful with what you do with it. And here, this slide just says it. The more clearly you define the assignment, the more useful the first outcome becomes. So, here's, I didn't mean to have this at the same time you were asking the question, but it's good timing, is what does good prompting look like? First you need to tell it how it should act. You need to give it the task. What exactly should it do and how should it produce it? You need to tell it who's going to read it. Who's it for? You need to give it context. What's the specific project or situation that it's for? And then you need to give it the tone, and meaning how should it come back to you? Should it be bulleted? Should it be 5 paragraphs? Should it be 2 paragraphs? Because you're right, Alicia, you've got to know how to ask it the right questions.
Okay, so there is another question from Tara Alexander. So she's researching on African farming. So she's asking what AI site would be best that would help her.
And let's ask her a few more questions. So what do you want to know about farming? Do you want to know what kind of farming will work best in some specific area? Do you want to know how can the locals that are going to do the farming best be able to do it with whatever resources they either do or don't have? Again, that's a pretty broad question, but if you just ask it that broadly, it's going to give you much less useful information than if you really think about questions a little better about what you want it to do for you before you do it. So if you don't mind, just write in the chat what the answer to that is. What are you doing it because you want to be involved in farming yourself? Do you want to teach people how they can do farming? And again, there's where location is going to become way more important than anything else. What you do in South Africa is not the same thing you're going to do in Ethiopia. What you do in a rainforest area is not going to be the same as what you do in a desert, obviously. I think we all know that. But AI is not going to know that. And so if you just say, Africa, tell me what I can do to help people learn how to farm in Africa, that's going to be too general. You want to have something much more specific, just like this. Don't ask it to write you a memo about wetlands. Instead, draft a client memo for here's the location, a Midwestern land owner, not a Western, not a Eastern. And this is going to know that it's U.S. considering small scale wetland restoration. Where? On agricultural land. What do you really want to know? Explain the benefits, the planning issues, the practical next steps in clear, non-legal language. So we're going to actually do that in just a second here, but let's see if there's other questions first, or if there's a comment.
There's one more question from Patrick. So he says, I'm seeing that one should use multiple AI and use them to build a
Yes,
niche. Okay.
that's the best answer. That's what I was trying to get in front of you as we talked about this, is that if you can use multiple different models, we have all those models today. It's a really great question. And so
Yeah,
I'm going to put this in, by the way, and we're going to see what we get. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just gonna say one little thing to the audience, that it's better to get a paid version, because the free version will run out of information. Like once you start asking it questions, it will give you like a couple of replies, and then it will say upgrade, and then you gotta wait for a few hours. Depends on what you're using. So
yeah, I just screwed up here, so I'm going to show you. I was already in this thread, this chat about industrial site, and that's not what we want here. So I've got to get rid of this. And I'm going to do a new chat. So I had to be thinking here. I want a completely new chat because I want it to be, don't want it combined with what I was asking about wetlands. But yes, if you can use multiple models, you're going to be much more satisfied with what you get. And then do what I said, put the answers you get into a Google Doc for each one of them, and then add the plus sign. They all operate the same way. Add that to something that's going to be knowledge for it, and ask it to put them all together to give you the best model it can give you. So here, it's already done with this. ChatGPT is really fast. Remember, I said to write a memo to the landowner. I'm not reading this. I'm scanning it as it goes through, but it looks like it's nothing. It hasn't hallucinated. Everything here makes sense. It's fairly straightforward. This is really pretty well done. It will tend to override at times, though. This is a long memo. I think it would work. All right, so now let's do the same thing in Mark. Now it's done it again. I'm not going to do Manus because we know Manus is going to take too long. So let's do a new chat again on Claude. Claude went really fast before, so I think it'll do that again. While it's working though, let me show you. This is Instantly Claw, which is this new whole approach of using claws. These claws are, again, multiple different models, choosing the best one to use to do a whole variety of things for you, way more than what we're talking about. So I'm going to talk more about this in future sessions, but just wanted to introduce you. I just literally acquired this yesterday, so I have not worked with it very much yet. So we're not ready to talk, but I just wanted to show it. All right, and it's still working. I'm afraid Manus would take forever, so I'm not going to do Manus, but I think I can get Wilma to do something pretty fast. So let's put it in there. It is. You know what it's doing, Mark? It's putting it up anytime I'm doing this copy from another source. It's putting it up here. I think it's actually reading it.
Yeah, it does.
No, it isn't really. See, it says, what's in this image? I think it's going to give me garbage here. Yeah. Well, no, wait a minute. It is writing a memo. Wow.
Okay, it did it.
I didn't see anything about Army Corps of Engineer permits in the previous one, which is really important, by the way. But look how much shorter this is than the one from ChatGPT. Let's go back to that one. Look how long. This again, let me just show you next steps I use at least. So what I would then do is take this, I would go create a new Google Doc, and I would go, I'm going to give it a title as a template. Come on. Now it's doing searches. I don't want to do a search. I want it in the title. That was me typing in the wrong place. So I'm going to put the prompt in. Then I'm going to copy this whole memo. And it's putting things in caps and so on. Who cares? This is all for my own use. And it's making it a lot longer than it needs to be. But remember, that's the Chat GPT. So I'm going to put that up at the top. I would do more work on this before I could take the next step, but I am going to do that next step here. We're going to end with this. Well, we're just about over time. I'll do this next week, but I want to show you one other piece. We're going to take the one from much more short one from my super agent. I'm just going to put in that this was Wilma. So the next step, and I'll do it in between weeks here, is I'm going to do the one from Claude, which I didn't even do yet. Did I do Claude at all? I don't think I did it. Oh, I did too. Here it is. Whoa, look at how cool the one Claude did was. Wow. Wow, is this nice? Look at this. You know, there's that's a little astounding to me. That is really well done. And I don't know the details, but I'd have to read it. But doesn't that look nice, everybody? I don't know why I thought I was IRG. It's interesting. Prepared by International Risk Group, which is my previous company. I'm not really sure why it's doing it with that, but so I'm going to download that because it's in Word. That is one thing that's a little frustrating is that these models, some of them like Microsoft better, some of them like Google better, and so on. Most of them actually like Microsoft better. But now I could copy this and then add that into this memo, which I want to clean up anyway. And then I could do the same thing for what we didn't do yet, was that we didn't do anything for Manus. So any other questions before we end? Everybody's been awesome here today. Hope you learned something. Give me some ones if you learned anything in the chat real quick, and let's end it with this. Give me some nines if you really didn't get much from it, or in the middle if it was kind of in the middle. You
Okay,
tell
so
me, Mark.
there's one question.
Okay.
So do you we got nines and three. Okay. All right, so there's a question, do you pay for the AI services individually?
Yes. Each one of these systems is got its own. They're all separate businesses. So if you're gonna do the paid versions, you would pay for each of them separately.
Yes. All right.
Most of them are in the range of $20 to $50 a month. So lots of nines. Nines means you didn't really like this. So put in real quickly. Everybody they can do it independently. What is it that you really want to learn about AI? Or you can just give us notes about that later. But again, this is our fourth week doing this. But
you got a couple of ones in the end.
yeah.
Ignore that 9. Tara says.
All right. This has been fun. I hope you guys got something from it, and we sure enjoy helping you, trying to be more economic. I'm going to just quickly say for Doug, we need to get out to the Rockville site with you and Roger sometime. Doug was been laid up by a couple different surgeries, getting ready to head back to Alaska, I know, as soon as he possibly can, in May probably. and but so a little bit of time left. But he's my local buddy and business friend and partner, and we have not gotten out since his surgery, so we need to do that. We're actually going to try to go do some sporting clay shooting one of these days also. I think we actually have a date. We maybe have it already scheduled. I think Doug might have something on the calendar. All right. Anything else, Mark, that you see?
Yeah, a bunch of people said thank you, Wayne, for this. This is the first time. I think Patrick says, no, I've seen Patrick before on this. So he says first chance to get a look forward to move for
All
more,
right.
sorry. Look forward for
Yeah.
more.
I think he meant
Okay.
toward as it relates to AI. So that's cool. All right. Well, hey, everybody, this has been great. Enjoy your weekend. If you are spiritual like I am, enjoy Easter. Or is that holiday? Is our holiday coming up this week and celebration? So, and I'm sure there's other things that people can be celebrating, birthdays and all other things in their families, births and so on, having all kinds of things like that going on. And we had one of our staff, Cam, whose wife and he just had a baby on, what was it, last Friday, right, Mark? A week ago tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be a week tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.